Okay, so I'll just welcome Linda. I'll just make a short introduction.
Okay.
So this is recorded for also for a YouTube channel, and this is held by the Danish Tre Principers Association in 3PDK. That's a non-profit organization, and our purpose is to provide information about this understanding. And we have a lot of activities, and among them are these webinars that will be found on our YouTube channel also. And you can also follow 3PDK on a web page. That's 3pdk.org. And we have a Facebook group that's called Tre Principper Danmark. So if you are watching this on YouTube, now you know where to look if you want to learn more. So Linda, thank you very much for participating in this. I'm so happy that you want to join us and talk a little bit about your books. And so I think that's the main agenda today, is that you can give a short introduction a little in a few minutes, and then we could hear a little bit about the work you do with the children and the books. So first, I'll just say my name is Kasper, and I'll work as a practitioner, Tre Principers practitioner, in some of my time, and I'll mainly focus on children and young people also. So that's why I'm interested, of course, in children books, and that's why I'm so happy that you're here today. So Linda, maybe you want to introduce yourself?
Okay. Well, my name is Linda Pransky, and I'm a Tre Principper practitioner. As Kasper is, I am, and but I've been probably doing it for a lot longer. I've been, believe it or not, it's been 40 years. Been working in the principles for 40 years. And I was very fortunate to have Sydney Banks as my teacher. I stumbled across him in 1976. And by accident, it was just a friend of ours was intrigued by him and asked us to come and listen to Sid. And then my husband George and I became intrigued. And then we got impacted by his work, personally impacted by his work. And we really saw how psychological change happened. And that was phenomenal to understand how psychological change happened. And so we became his students for years until he passed away. He passed away about, I think, 10, 12 years ago now. I believe it. It's been a really long time. But Kasper asked me to talk about how my children's book started, how it happened. And it's a great story. I was giving a talk in London to a group of, I think there were a group of women. It was a women's group, and there are about, 30, 40 women in this group. And I was hired to do 3 days, to talk for 3 days. And after 2.5 days, I felt done. I felt like I was, I said everything I had to say. I felt like the group had really listened well and really had taken in a lot, and we were done. But I knew the people that hired me would like it if I stopped, early. So I still had a couple of hours. Of work. And we took a break for lunch, and I came back, and I was like, I just I'm talking to myself, not them. Talking to myself, I'm sitting up in front of this group and I'm talking to myself, not out loud, but in my mind. I have nothing to say. I'm done. I just have nothing to say. Now, fortunately, it doesn't make me uncomfortable to have that experience. It doesn't make me uncomfortable because I know something will occur to me. So what occurred to me was to talk about my cat, Cal. And I had that thought, I'm going to talk about Cal. And then I had the thought, you can't do that. That's, that's not going to make any sense to these people for you to start talking about your cat. That was my response to what occurred to me. Talk about Cal. My response, you can't do that. And then I thought, well, why not? I don't have anything else. I'm done. I'll just talk about Cal. So I thought, oh, well, we'll see what happens. And I started talking about Cal. And I talked about the story of Cal and how I got my cat and how he was a rescue cat and he needed a home because the foster home he was in, they had gotten a dog that was hassling him. So they needed to either get a home for the dog or get a home for Cal. And I had a mouse problem. And I needed a cat to take care of that problem because I wasn't good at it. I didn't like putting traps out. I didn't want to do it. So I went and I met Cal. And I didn't realize at the time when I met him, he was sick. He was very stressed because of this dog, but I didn't know he was sick as well. But I took him home, and the people that were his foster parents said to me, you got to keep him inside for a couple days so he gets used to your home and he doesn't run away. Well, I kept him inside for 24 hours, but he was bouncing off the walls. He was like, I want out, I want out, I want out. And so I let him out and he disappeared. And I thought, well, I lost my cat. Well, 2 days later, he shows up and he's hungry and I feed him, but he won't come in. So he becomes this outdoor cat, which doesn't help me because the mice are in the house, not out there. But I love animals, and so I fed him. And that went on for a couple months, and then all of a sudden he wants to come in. He wants to come in the house. And so I let him in. He won't let me pet him, but he will eat and stay away from me. And I'm thinking, well, why does he want to come in? And I realized, well, he wanted to come in because it got cold. It was in November. It got cold and he wanted to come in the house. So I'm telling this story to these women. They're kind of looking at me like, okay, where are you going with this story? And after a while of being inside, because he doesn't want to go outside because it's cold, eventually he jumps on my lap and I can pet him. And then I fall in love with him. We become friends. But he's still not killing mice. I still have mice. And I'm thinking, I can't get rid of him because I love him. So I'm either going to have to get another cat or I'm going to have to start setting traps again, which I don't want to do. I think, okay. And while I'm reflecting on what to do, all of a sudden, I find little mouse parts on the floor. And I realized he's starting to kill mice. And I think, oh, it took a really long time for him to finally do what cats do, or what most cats do, is kill mice. And I'm thinking about this and I'm reflecting on it. And I say to the audience, I say, you know, here's what I think what that's about. Once Cal got comfortable, once Cal got relaxed, once Cal felt like he belonged in the family and this was his home, he did what cats do. He did what his nature was, and that is kill mice. And then I get this hand up in the audience, and this woman, she's crying. And she says, "That's my son." And I said, "Well, what do you mean that's your son?" She said, "Well, there was a time when I was really upset at my son, and I criticized him and I hassled him because I wanted him to go get a job. And he wouldn't. He just stayed home. He wouldn't go get a job. And then I stopped hassling him. I stopped criticizing him. And I started feeling better towards him. And I was more loving towards him. And then I felt really good about him. And then he went out and got a job. And then we had this amazing conversation about how people, when they would feel comfortable in their own skin, when they would feel better and not feel on edge or not feel criticized or not feel unloved, when they felt loved, they would become successful in their life. That was our conversation. And it all came from that story that I told about Cal. So I thought, I'm going to write a book about thought for kids. And then I'm going to write a book about where happiness is. And then my third book is going to be about this story about when people feel loved, they do what they would naturally do. That's how the book came about, from that story.
Yeah, that's a very nice story. And I'll present Cal, the first one, where I met Cal in this one, and the second one is this one. So it's exciting what number 3 is about and how that will turn out. And these 2 books is also, one of them is translated into Danish, and I know some other languages also. And it's on the way in Greenlandic, this one also. So
that's very exciting.
Yeah. So when I met the principles early on, I pretty early met this book also, and it was interesting for me to actually to use it to show adults. Some of my friends and family was a bit curious what was going on with me, what I was doing, and I found that it was so easy just to show them this book, and they read it and oh yeah, that makes sense. So it's
that was really interesting, Kasper, because I was surprised people were using that book in adult groups.
Yeah.
Surprised, but then it didn't surprise me because it's very simply put.
And that's it's amazing how the simple thing is talking to adults and children so easily, and I think that's an important point to remember also.
The other reason I wanted to do this is because I have worked with children, not many, but I remember working with this one girl. She was eight, somewhere between 8 and 10. And her parents brought her in because she just was having a very, very hard time getting to sleep. And I asked her, I said, my first question was, do you know what thought is? What thought? Do you know what I mean by thought? And she said, no, I don't. So I described thought to her. And she said, oh, I see what you mean by thought. And I said, well, at night, what are you thinking when you put your head on the pillow? What are you thinking? And she said, well, I'm thinking about who I'm going to ride with on the bus to school. And I'm thinking about whether I'll be able to play on the bars during recess. And I'm wondering about, whether my teacher will get upset with me. And I'm afraid that I didn't do my homework right. She goes on and on and on. And I really, basically, she's worrying. She's putting our head on the pillow and going into a worry state of mind. So I thought, I wonder if I can get away with telling her. I didn't know what I could get away with in terms of teaching her, the metaphors. I didn't know, because some metaphors you give adults and they roll their eyes at you. If you use certain metaphors, an adult will roll their eyes out. Rolling your eyes is like they think you're stupid. So I said to her, all this stuff, this thinking you have in your head about school, when you put your head on your pillow, you can let all of that thinking flow out your ear. And I was waiting to see if I could get away with it. And she looks at me and she says, really? I said, absolutely. She says, oh, okay. So I saw her a week later and I said, were you able to let the thinking flow out your ear? She says, oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then she says to me, and this is one of the other reasons behind the book. She says, how come nobody has told me this before? I said, well, what do you mean? She says, well, how come my teachers or my parents haven't told me about thought and what to do with it? I said, I don't know. I said, I don't know.
Yeah, luckily you did, and you wrote it down. And I presented the book for my son some years ago, and of course read it in Danish, just translated it along, and he really liked the book, but I don't know if he thought others should enjoy it in English, or he just was tired of my translations were a little bit different every time. But he asked, maybe you can translate it. So that's why I contacted you then back then, and I really couldn't say no to that. That's amazing. A small kid want to have me do that. So of course that's what I did, and it has been very fun to go deep into this. Although it's such a simple book, it's nice to see how simple it also is to the simple things that it points to. And I find it helpful also for parents that knows about the principles and have seen about the principles, because I think it's difficult for for us who have seen something in the principles to share this with our own children. And just recently I saw something about this, that actually if this dilemma is that we see something that of course we want to pass along, but it's difficult to pass along to the ones we love because there's so much at stake. So we want to help them. And I think what we do, I can compare it a little bit with a math equation. So we struggle with solving a math equation, and maybe we do it for many years, and then finally we learn or see how to do it. And of course we get an insight, and wow, now I know how to solve this equation, and it makes me really happy, and it solved the problem for me. So of course I want to share this with the world and with my children. And then I just saw that, so what we do is we give the results to our kids. Innocently, we just give them the result of the equation instead of teaching them how to solve the equation. So do you see what I mean? We forget to point to what we learned and how we learned it. It's not because we know the result, and it's not because we know what's bothering us. It's because we learned how to get the insight. We had the insight. So often I think when we are parents, we try to fix the problem instead of pointing to how the system works. What thought is, instead of that, we talk about the specific thought, because that's what's bothering our children, our kid.
Well, it would make the world in my mind, and make the world a much better place if children, if this understanding was taught in schools, if the role of thought was taught in school, so children could learn to negotiate their thinking and understand that their thinking came from their experience came from their thinking, their emotions and their experience came from their thinking. If they understood that, they could see how to negotiate it. They could understand, they could either stay with it or not stay with it. They would feel some choice. They would feel some way in which they were in control of their experience rather than the victim of thought. See, because people suffer because they experience themselves as a victim of thought. Because all suffering, all mental suffering is in thought.
Yeah. And but it's difficult not to, as a parent, it's difficult not to talk about the issue that's bothering your kid. You want to comfort instead of showing how the system is, what is thought, and what you said. So it's you easily fall in the trap of trying to fix the problem because there's so much at stake, because it's your own kid. So, and that's why I also like these books, because they're so nice points to point in the direction of how it's working, and not a specific problem. And I think that's a good point to take along also as an adult, to focus on how it works.
Well, Kasper, do we have time for questions, or would you like me to talk about anything else specifically?
It would be nice if someone had a question, of course. Yeah, I can see Nina.
Hi, Nina.
Hi, Linda. Nice to see you, and thank you for telling us about your books and the work with the children. I'm very curious and interested in this because I'm a teacher in a school for young children, and I'm also a grandmother for a boy nearly 5 years old. And some weeks ago, we talked about thoughts, he and I. I don't remember why and exactly what I said, but I probably said something, but maybe you don't need to have to think about that thoughts. Mm-hmm. And he said, Grandma, what is thoughts? Mm-hmm. And I had very difficult to find a good answer. So I think I said something, there's a kind of a fantasy in our head. It can be something you see or something you hear. It's a story maybe or something in your head. But when you said that you had this conversation with that girl, mm-hmm. She didn't know, she was 8, maybe more, didn't know what a thought is. Mm-hmm. And you said you explained. Can you please tell us, how did you explain it?
Oh, it was so simple. And see, again, I didn't know if I could get away with it. You know, I didn't, because I couldn't, you know. So anyway, I very simply said, the stuff in your head.
Okay.
The stuff in your head. And she immediately understood. Yeah. Stuff in your head.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Very interesting.
Because I didn't think that would do it. No. When I that was the first thing I said. It's all that stuff in your head. Mm. And she knew what I was talking about.
Children knows a lot.
Mm-hmm. They do.
And much more easier than we believe they.
This is, they totally kind of immediately get it.
Yeah.
If it's simple. And I think also if you feel it, they feel it. Mm. Like if you mean it, you're honest about it, you mean it, you're honest. Mm. They get it right away. Mm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? You can ask anything. You know, if you guys are teachers or coaches or what, if you work in the three, you're part of the Three Principles community, yeah? All of you. So you must be.
So we have Miriam. You want to?
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Linda.
Hi.
I don't actually have a question, but I would like to tell you my story, or tell you a story about my son. He's 9 years old. And for a couple of months ago, I read this book for him in Danish. And then recently, out of nowhere, we hadn't talked about it since, but out of nowhere, he asked me, because I have believed that I was mentally ill my whole life, and he knows that. And he asked, Mom, is there anything I can do to avoid getting mentally ill? Or is it just meant to be? And he asked if it was his behavior that could, if his behavior could do something to make him ill. And I was so pleased to refer to your book that we have read and talk about these thoughts that he had, and being able to tell him in a level of his understanding that there were no reason to be afraid. I was so glad that I had read this book for him before these thoughts, so we could just talk easily about it. So actually, I just want to say thank you and tell you that story.
You know, thank you for that. That does my heart good to know that book's helping. Because, you know, you're right. You're absolutely right. Just because you have a thought doesn't mean you have to believe in it, agree with it, do anything about it.
No, exactly. And he understood, and I think he understood because we read that book some months ago.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you too.
Wow.
I just want to say I've heard from others also who have had a lot of good from the book and had some really good stories. And I'll also say that I really look forward to have the second book also in Danish, because I really like this so simple message that it's as I see it, there's one message in a whole book that it's always there and it's just covered up, and I think that's so amazing.
Yeah. The message, you know, if you don't want to read the book, I'll just tell you the message. And the message is, the true nature of cats is to be happy.
Yeah.
The cat's true nature is to be happy. That's the message of the book. And sometimes that happiness gets covered up by an unhappiness blanket of thought. So that's the book.
And I think it's such a perfect way to describe it and use the words. It's just covered up. So we don't have to learn anything new.
No.
We just have to.
And nor do we have to worry about it if we get into, basically it's a book on, if you get into a mood, you don't have to worry about it. It just covers up your happiness, and then at some point it will lift and you don't have to worry about your mood.
Yeah. Like my son, when we read the first book, he likes computers, and we talked about thoughts and the balloons and so on. He said, "Oh yeah, thoughts. It's like you know, these not virtual reality, but these 3D what's called these computer created 3Ds." That he could see that you can see that it looks real, but at the same time you can see that it's not real. So you can get carried away because it looks real, but you know it's not. And I really think that's a good. It's a good one also. It's a good way to see it, like dreams. They are so real. Thoughts, they're so real, and they're not at the same time. And I have seen that it's very comforting also, can be effectful to point at the very simple things. For example, we had an episode with a nightmare. He was sad and crying before bedtime because he had some thoughts and was scared for nightmares, although he wasn't asleep yet. And I really were so close to fall into the parent trap and talk about the nightmare and what is it and so on. And I somehow got my grip back on and just said, yeah, but it's so nice that it will probably be over again tomorrow, or something like that. Just don't go. I didn't get into this thought. What was it? Just say, okay, the system is that it's going away again. So I think that's it. It was so obvious that it was so comforting just to point to this mechanism that it's just now. So yeah, there's a lot of inspiration from this cat story. Yeah. So do we have, Ivalu?
Hi, I am Ivalu. Nice to meet you.
Nice.
I am from Greenland, and Kasper mentioned that it's being translated into Greenlandic. So we are looking forward to that too. I have been working with early childhood education many years, and recently I have been giving courses to preschool staff about 3P. So that makes me even more happy when that book is going to be translated into Greenlandic. So I am so happy that there are more books and more that point us to our innate health, and it means a lot to me.
You know, that's I have so much respect for teachers, preschool teachers. I have so much respect for you, and I have so much respect for your effort into getting this understanding to other teachers and into schools and into children. I can't tell you how much I respect that.
I've been giving courses about 3P to the staff, and I know when I see the changes in their eyes when they get it, and it's so fantastic. For example, there was one who was very stressed, and then after a few hours with them, she relaxed. She knew that there's only now, and that she doesn't have to be stressed at her work or at home. And then she was more relaxed, and she was getting tired and wanted to sleep. So it was so nice just watching that she will be able to be more present with the kids and family. So it's just one good example.
Well, thank you for telling me that. Again, that really affects me. I mean, just makes me want to start writing the third book, which I've been putting off, you know, for other things that I've been involved in. But thank you for telling me that. That's really good, really good. Anything else? Anything you want to ask or know, or?
How is Cal?
Oh, Cal, I had to have.
Okay.
He got. He's passed. He's died.
Okay.
It was hard because I loved him so much, but he was getting sick. You know, when I got him, he was. I don't know what his life had been like before I got him, and I didn't know how old he was, but I think he was a lot older than they told me, and I think he had an underlying condition of something, but his kidneys were getting bad, and you know, I was giving him medication and special food, but he just wasn't doing well. So I didn't want him to suffer. So they came to the house. They came out to the house and they put him down a couple of years ago. Now I have Grey Paw. It was interesting because here's another story. Grey Paw came to my house 6 months before Cal died, and Grey Paw wanted to get in. And the vet said, no, you can't bring another cat in the house because Cal's too delicate. You know, he's too fragile. You can't bring another cat in. So Grey Paw lived outside for 6 months. And what I would do with Grey Paw is, because she really, really wanted contact with people. So in the winter, I would go out and I'd bundle up with my coats and I'd sit outside, and then Grey Paw would get on my lap and I'd sit there and pet Grey Paw for a bit. And then I'd get up and she would get mad if I would leave. She got really mad at me when I'd stand up to leave and go back in the house, because she wanted me to be outside, or she wanted to be inside. So after Cal died, she came in and became my cat and inside cat. And but she just came. She was I thought she was feral, wild, had been born in the wild, but I realized, I think either someone left her or she was chased off. Maybe there was a dog that got into the family and the dog chased her off, or another cat chased her off. But she was pretty wild when she came here to me. But then as she was in the house and started to, again, relax, she got a lot more gentle. So she's a different kind of cat. Cal was the sweetest, most gentle cat I've ever had. He was so sweet and so gentle. And Gray Paw is very feisty. She's a character. So different cats, but yeah, my new cat. So maybe someday I'll write a book about Gray Paw.
So Linda, I was wondering or thinking about the principles in Denmark is more and more widespread now, and it's growing. And I sense there's a lot of course, parents that are seeing these principles and discovering it. And so can you maybe, if you had to give a point in some direction of if you're sitting as a new in the principles and you just feeling you're exploding to share this, or you have exploding to know more about how do I do with my children? I think, do you have any sort of, could you say something about that? I know you're a parent too, but of course you.
Will you ask that question again?
Yeah, I think.
Ask the question again.
Maybe not an advice, but something to say to new to parents that are new in the principles, and of course want to share this with their kids.
Oh,
you have anything to say? Could you say something to us, to all of us parents?
Here's what matters. This is what matters more than what you say. It's your behavior and how you are. For example, say you as a parent start to understand how the principles work in you, how thought works and consciousness. And say you've been a person that would get really reactive, have a temper and get mad easily. And then all of a sudden you understand the role of thought and anger, and you stop getting temperamental, or you stop exploding or getting angry. Your kids are going to see that. See? Or say you stop getting stressed by your thinking. You stop the stressful thinking, and you're more present with your kids. They're going to see it. So it's really more what you do than what you say to your children. It's more how you are with them than how you talk to them about the principles. It's your being an example, you being an example of the change, you learning. As you learn and how you're different, they pick up on it. They watch you, they see. They're like osmosis. They just, if you stop worrying, they'll stop worrying. If you stop being anxious, they'll stop being anxious. Because the other thing is that, I've worked with children very successfully, sent them back into a family with parents who haven't changed, and then the kid will change back. Like I'll change a kid and the kid will change back once they've gone back into their homes, unless I've worked with their parents. Because kids just fall into the feeling of the family, the mindset, the state of mind of the family. Not all the time, but most of the time. Some kids will hold the change, but most kids won't. They go back and they start picking up the habits of their parents again. So if you want to change your kids, change yourself. That's what I would say. You want to change your kids. If you have a problem with your child, you change. Now, if you want to talk, now if you're talking about older teenage kids, my daughter, Erica Bugby, works with that population really well. So if you ever wanted, you could get her to talk to you about older teenagers, you know, like 15, 16, 17-year-olds. She's great with working with parents and teens. So, because they tend to have, you know, they're not as affected by their parents as younger kids. Younger kids just are so affected by where their parents are at, emotionally, psychologically, the feeling of them. Does that answer you?
Yeah, it did. That was a very nice message to take with us. And I'll just remember you that I'd like to remind you that we are taping this, so now your daughter can see that you you just said contact her. So we will definitely do that, I think. So that's an amazing opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, like Erica works. That's the population she likes to work really good.
Yeah. Perfect. I definitely think we will pick up on that one. So I'm so glad that we could do this, Linda, and it was nice to hear about Cal again. And I don't know if anyone else has other questions or comments, and if not, I'll definitely say thank you. And I look so much forward to see the next book in print, the second one, and the third one also. So
I love the fact, I don't know why, it just tickles me pink that it's getting going into Greenland.
Yeah.
Go figure, you know?
Yeah.
But I love that. I love that. And Denmark as well, but somehow the fact that it's going to Greenland, it's just, I love that.
There are some very nice ladies in Greenland that are active on this also and helping me. So that's so nice. So I'm sure it's going to bring a lot of joy up there also. So, yeah. So do anyone
thank you for asking me, Kasper. Thank you for asking me to do this.
Yeah. So it just felt right in the moment. So, yeah. So do anyone has a last comment, or that's the last chance, or then I'll, okay. So
all right. Well,
thank you very much, Linda. So
yeah. All right. Everybody take care.
Thank
you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.